Boston 25 News reporter Lisa Rodriguez discovered a cluster has formed in a Bourne neighborhood.
I was scared I was going to die, and I was scared I was going to die alone.
In isolation at Falmouth Hospital in mid-March, diagnosed with COVID-19, 44-year-old Claudine Ryder was struggling to breathe and fearing the worst.
Sunday night, I thought it was it. I rolled over in the middle of the night, and I saw the call button, and I couldn't breathe. And I pressed, and the nurses came, and I remember a little bit of it. I mostly remember I never said bye to my husband. I didn't say goodbye to my kids in that morning.
Thankfully, Claudine is back home in Bourne with her family and recovered just in time to celebrate her daughter Kaylee's 15th birthday.
Happy birthday, dear Kaylee.
Probably the most memorable birthday ever.
It was a neighborhood event, the community not only coming together for Kaylee, but also to support each other in healing. Aside from Claudine, 5 others, all under 50 years old, were confirmed COVID-19 cases and are also recovering now from the virus.
My husband had the symptoms of no taste and no smell, so they presumed he was also COVID positive, as well as my girls, Kaylee and Brooke. So that's 6 confirmed, not including presumed. We will get through this. We need to listen to what's being told to us. We need to distance ourselves. We need to enjoy the time in our walls with our families, because tomorrow's not promised.
As far as how Claudine was treated, she was given antibiotics, oxygen treatment, and a drug typically used to treat malaria.
Boston 25 News reporter Lisa Rodriguez explains how some are coping with their loss and how animal hospitals are handling it.
Due to the pandemic, I've been by his side around the clock for the last month.
For Trisha Brenner's family, that extra time was the last they'd have with their beloved dog, Charlie.
He died suddenly from a fatal arrhythmia, we believe. So there 1 minute, gone the next.
He died in her arms. But for pets who make it to the hospital, strict visitor policies because of COVID-19 leave many who are desperate to be near them waiting outside.
It was that much tougher.
Last week, vets found a tumor on Kurt Power's dog Brewski's abdomen, and there was nothing more they could do.
Certainly the emotions surrounding any euthanasia decision just means that the owner just has to be able to be there. And so we've made any reasonable accommodations to make that happen while still keeping our staff as safe as possible.
We held his paws and told him we loved him, and, he went to sleep.
Power received a Purple Heart in the U.S. Army after he was narrowly killed by a sniper in 2005. But he says this was one of the saddest moments of his life.
Man, I was shot on the operating table and thought I was going to die. I didn't as much as ask, hey, give me another day here. But I would have done anything, for another day with that dog. And it just, my heart is absolutely broken here.
Now, Charlie, that you saw at the beginning of the piece was part of a story we did last year on DCM, a heart condition that some researchers say may be tied to some grain-free pet food. A link to that story will be included along with this one on Boston25News.com. Alicia Rodriguez, Boston 25 News.
Instead of tourists, hotels and motels are filled right now with essential employees, many of them frontline workers choosing to stay away from their families as they fight the pandemic.
As Boston 25 News reporter Alicia Rodriguez explains, it's a balance to keep everyone safe.
It's been an emotional ride.
They're willing to put their own lives at risk, but won't put their families in jeopardy, many choosing to live apart from them for now.
You always worry about coming home to your family and potentially exposing them to this virus.
And some simply don't have time to come home. Mass General Nurse Angela Carter, who is the wife of one of our Boston 25 News photographers, is in the middle of a stretch of overnight shifts, and for now will call a hotel home.
This actually is the first week that our floor turned into an all-COVID floor. So this has been quite a change for all of us.
And hotels are responding to the need, offering free rooms while also trying to keep their properties safe for their own workers. There are hundreds of hotels that have signed up with the American Hotel and Lodging Association to provide temporary housing for emergency and healthcare workers. Red Roof Inn told us they're among those donating rooms. Their chief marketing officer told us their setup works well for these situations because each room has an exterior door. Now, Carter says healthcare workers workers are also doing their part to keep everyone safe. They have their routines.
All of the nurses, we have our own little way of making sure that we don't bring this virus home with us.
And they're doing the same, even at hotels.
The hotel itself is doing a great job about making sure that they limit contact with people. They don't offer housekeeping. Obviously, if there are certain amenities that they need, they're happy to bring it up, but we pretty much kind of stay in the room. Once we leave, they do a complete clean down.
It's a stressful situation, but among the mix of emotions is a sense of pride.
I'm fearful for what's happening in the world, but at the same time, I'm so excited to jump in and kind of fight this thing head on.
The focus right now is on housing the healthcare community and first responders, but hotels are also gearing up to become alternative care sites, such as emergency hospitals and places for those who are quarantined to stay as needed. This was all laid out last month as part of a state plan. Alicia Rodriguez, Boston 25 News.
Many parents are struggling right now with keeping their children entertained after just a few weeks at home, but one mom spent months doing it. Boston 25 News reporter Alicia Rodriguez spoke to the mom of the mighty Quinn, who was forced to stay home for an entire summer as he fought brain cancer. And she explains why she's a very firm believer that everyone who can should stay home, with one exception.
When Quinn, now 4 years old, was fighting brain cancer, his compromised immune system left him stuck inside his Weymouth home. He couldn't leave, so all last summer, people came to him, affectionately calling him the Mighty Quinn, performing and just saying hello as he waved from his Quindo. At the time, people could only sympathize. Now, it's a similar reality for many.
People are seeing kind of a side that all cancer parents go through with their children. We're constantly worrying about taking kids in stores and, what germs are going to be any place that we go. I've had a lot of people say, I can't believe that you did this all summer. How did you survive?
Now, she recommends doing what many parents are already doing, online classes and meetings with friends, or time in the backyard, and maybe even stopping by and saying hello through a window. But her biggest advice is taking in the moments.
This is hopefully the last time that people will have the opportunity where they're stuck in their house, nowhere to go, nowhere they have to be with their children. No soccer practice, no dance classes. All they have to do is stay home. And they may not have that opportunity again, so it's kind of a nice time for them.
Quinn's latest scans showed he is cancer-free and was able to return to school, but that was just for 3 weeks until schools were closed. His mom, a police officer, returned for 2 weeks before she had to make the tough choice to stay home. There's only one reason she now encourages others to head out.
Blood and platelet donations are what kept Quinn alive during treatment, so that's our passion, and we hope that even though people are sheltering in place and staying home, stay home, except when you go to donate blood and platelets. So,
Alicia Rodriguez, Boston 25 News. In a world filled with video calls and conferences, you may have already found some tricks, like you only need to dress professionally from the waist up, with one exception.
If you think there's even the slightest chance that you're going to need to get something from the other room, then you definitely need to be dressed professionally your entire way.
Jody Smith of Manor Smith Etiquette Consulting encourages as much preparation as possible, but when the unexpected happens, like we saw with City Councilor Michelle Wu when her kids decided to join in at the end of our interview, just acknowledge it.
There are plenty of us regular people who simply don't have a space in their house that they can turn into an instant video conference room with a soundproofing and a door that locks.
And then another thing I found that people don't really understand is what you do at the end. It gets super awkward when you're done and everybody's like, okay, all right, so we're done. Are we done?
As the host, I simply stand up and say, it's been so nice having you here. Now, when you're in a professional meeting, you can be a little more succinct about it, and you can say, are there any other issues? And tell people when you're going to follow up.
And then there are the flood of personal invites.
Oh yeah, another Zoom get-together tonight. We'll see. I mean, I definitely would, but here's the thing. I've just been really busy making banana bread, just to have around the apartment. It's, it's like the 17th loaf I've made this week. Yeah, no, I do. I live alone. Thanks for reminding me.
Well, you don't have to say that. What you can say is, thank you so much for inviting me. So you want to be gracious about being included. I can't this time, but I hope that you have fun.
But on the flip side, there are some people who could really use someone reaching out, and it doesn't have to include video.
You can still call, you can still write a letter. There's lots of ways to stay in touch with people.
Alicia Rodriguez, Boston 25.
Whether it's gray starting to show or a mullet beginning to form. Remember those? A few weeks without access to a hairstylist or barber. It's been 3 for me. Has some starting to take matters into their own hands.
Oh, mercy. Boston 25 News reporter Alicia Rodriguez explains why the professionals are asking you to do them a favor and wait.
In stressful times, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. You've probably seen social media posts of people who might not normally cut or color their own hair taking on the challenge. This is one of our producers' friend Stephanie's transformation with the help of her husband, Brad.
We're stuck in, let's have a change. Okay.
Local hairstylist Louis Forte posted what looked like a nice tutorial on his Facebook.
Most of you probably are saying, I can do this. I've seen them do it 1,000 times.
But there was a twist.
Put it down. Don't do it. We'll be back. We'll fix you up.
Stylist Ashley Twitchell of the Fantastic Sam's in Danvers understands the urge.
Or when you go through anything dramatic or like really anxiety ridden, what do you want to do? You want to change your hair, right?
But hairstylists overall say it's best to look for temporary fixes.
You can purchase like sprays to conceal the gray. If you're worried about, in the meantime, that's more temporary and you can shampoo out, versus the permanent stuff is a little bit more scary.
Michael Marsilli of the Kent Newton Salon in Boston says there are other subtle things people with short hair can do.
Trim around the ears and play with styling products maybe. You could like slick areas back with a heavier product.
Of course, they all say they'll be happy to fix whatever you mess up once they can get back into their salons.
We're all in quarantine. We're all in isolation. We're all in this together. Remember us that as much as you need us, we need you.
And if you're looking for other ways to support your stylist, you can always buy gift cards. Many are also still selling products online. They also say it's always helpful if you leave a review on sites like Yelp or Google, or share old pictures of their work on social media. And of course, you can always book ahead for future appointments. And if you do get really bored and really do want to switch things up, you can use apps that will do it without making an actual change. Alicia Rodriguez, Boston 25 News.
After the CDC changed its recommendations on face masks, the demand is now skyrocketing. Businesses are stepping up and folks at home are trying to fill the void.
Boston 25 News reporter Alicia Rodriguez spoke to a couple of them who are leading an effort to make hundreds of masks.
As the demand for fabric masks grows, people with varying degrees of sewing skills are trying to answer the call.
So I hopped online and I just started looking into what I could do to help.
I happen to have a sewing machine.
Sarah Smith and Cindy Hicks are now making dozens of fabric masks and are part of a Facebook group called the Massachusetts Mask Connection. It started with requests from healthcare workers and nursing homes. But after the CDC changed its recommendations asking that everyone wear a mask, the requests came flooding in.
It's been really emotional. It's been a really emotional journey. Excuse me. And, there really isn't much you can do right now to help. The only thing you can do is to stay home.
Although these are not medical grade, we spoke to 2 Boston-based public health experts who strongly support homemade masks. They believe they could cut down on the spread of COVID-19 by up to 20%.
People who are sick with COVID, even asymptomatic carriers, are sneezing and coughing and shedding virus through these blobs. It's really, really, really important that people reserve medical masks, meaning the N95s and the surgical masks, for our frontline health workers.
I am high risk myself, so, at any point I may not be able to keep making them. So it is, which is actually one of the reasons why I started doing it, because, one day one of these people might have to help me. So I just want to help them as much as I can.
Now, these homemade fabric masks really do more to protect others from your germs. Now, the ones I've been making have these little pouches so that if you can find a filter material to put inside, they'll protect you a little bit more. Now, the CDC does say that any kind of fabric on your face will help. And keep in mind, that also prevents you from touching your face, which is a good thing overall. Alicia Rodriguez, Boston 25 News.